you're talking about the traffic situation. How do we deal with it? Cecil Gabra is a transport consultant and he joins us on the phone. We'll also be joined by engineer Abdullah Mahama, who is a civil engineer. But Cecil Gabra, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning to you and good morning to your cherished listeners.
Great. So I believe you've been following the conversation. I mean, now the LI has been withdrawn. But the key question is, how do we improve the traffic situation? Because that's what the members of parliament complained about in inserting that amendment where members of parliament and ministers of state and justices of the Supreme Court should have sirens fitted on their vehicles. How do we deal with the traffic situation?
Thank you so much once again. For me, I always say that we have failed as a nation to develop the transport system simply because we have failed to allow the bus rapid transit system to work. And I'll continue to say it. I am not a politician. This is what I do. To travel to other countries that have their population quite bigger than Ghana, like in India, Pakistan, even in China, they all rely on buses because it takes huge volumes of people to a place where it is much more easier for them to get there than queuing in vehicles, in traffic, to get to their destination. Now, let me put this fact down that my late dad was into construction, but he was the MD of the defunct State Construction Corporation. And he was Kwame Nkrumah's friend. One day I asked him, Dad, why do you have this big area in the middle of the ring road? He only told me that, look, during planning, it was reserved for trams, it was reserved for BRT, and so on. But what do we see now? And then the last is for expansion of the road, right? What do we see now? We have allowed, that is on the shoulder of this road, giving it out either to people to sell. Construction is ongoing. Every now and then, telecom companies will be digging, laying pipes, and so on. So the design is already gone, okay? It is gone. However, we haven't lost anything, and I keep on also saying that let's go and see what others have done. Now we have lost it. The vehicle population is still on the increase per annum, I would say between 5 to 10%. A lot of vehicles are being imported into this country because vehicles are no longer luxuries. They are needed by every person to move from point A to point B. But again, our roads are the same. We have the same road from Adenta to 37. If you talk about access roads in this country are not being constructed with any speed. And so traffic is going to continue, and it will be on an increase every now and then, simply because we don't have any plan. We have lost it. Assuming the BRT is working, let's say from Adenta to 37, why can't we take one lane and then give vehicles to use the dual carriage and strictly be dedicated to the BRT? People will park their vehicles and then join, because whilst you are in your traffic, the BRT comes out. This is what I'm talking about. Segregated roads. We do not have it, my brother. So this will go on and on. The conversation will go on. And I don't see why the minister or the MP will not enjoy this traffic with us. And
I'll get back to you
again that my very good friend, the IGP, will not play his siren when he's going to work. And I see him almost every day where I live on the Spintex Road. He doesn't use any siren. He sits in his car. Sometimes, for security reasons, I wouldn't mention the color of the car. But then he sits in the car, and then there's another car following him as security. They stay in traffic till they get to wherever they have to get to. That's the police headquarters. Isn't that beautiful? So why can't we all do it? If we are doing it, then I'm thinking that the planners of this country will notice that, street waha, to ease the traffic and so on.
Okay.
But if they are going to sit in vehicles and then they are going for meetings in motorcades and sirens, then that is also quite scary because everybody will have to rely on the motorcade and sirens. For me, yesterday, I think I spoke almost to about 14 radio stations, including TV stations, and we are all happy that this cannot come on.
All right. I'll come to you. I'll come back to you because we need to talk about the bus rapid transit. Yes, I know we had toyed with this idea previously. We had attempted dedicated, lanes which didn't work. We have to get back to it. I'll come back to you on where do we start. But since you talked about access roads, Engineer Abdullah Mahama, who is a civil engineer and a construction consultant, is also joining us. Engineer Mahama, good morning.
Good morning, Wizen. How are you?
I'm fine, engineer, except that I am concerned. I mean, we've been building these roads, but as Cecil Gabra talks about, it looks like access roads are a problem. I mean, if you're moving from Adenta to 37, everybody joins in the main road and that's it. We are all going the same way. And so lots of traffic all over the city. In fact, if one road is blocked, as we've seen in the past, the whole city is locked down. What are we not getting right? Well, why is that a problem?
Well, I say good morning to your cherished listeners. I'm sure my colleague on the other line has just done justice to a very fundamental problem. So if you coming from Adenta and you're en route to 37 and beyond, it is only, you can just observe one particular stretch of the road, which is the Tetekwashi Pantine Road or Pantine Tetekwashi Road. Unfortunately, the advice or the suggestions he is giving to having some of the interconnector roads cannot be constructed now because of the unavailability of land. So if I am sure to think that possibly the Department of Urban Roads and the Ghana Highway Authority in the past may have had a very laid down plan, as in dedicated or projected dedicated route that should be secured and be used for other alternative diversions towards the capital or towards Accra when the main corridor is actually choked or when you have stressed vehicles on those particular stretch of road. But even with that, you remember when the former Greater Accra Regional Minister, the one who just left before the current one, this huge, forgotten the name, forgive me,
Henry Korte.
Henry Korte. Let's just give one typical example of how indiscipline is also taking a toll on our stretch of our roads. When you look at the Adenta Medina stretch, let's just use that one in context. Before he came in, there was this public outcry around from the Presec bound one year from Adenta or from Adenta bound 1 year from Presec area, just because of the congestion at the Zongo junction. And this man actually dedicated some time, got the MPTD, the city council guys to be present at that place. And I can tell you that a lot of my colleagues who were actually coming from the top mountain, who were working in Accra, were so excited about what has happened because you need about 30 minutes, 1 hour to just traverse that small distance. And when the man came in, actually instilled some discipline there, my colleagues were using under 5 minutes to traverse that distance, and they were so excited. What is dying down is going gradually down again. So you allow all the commercial vehicles to actually take 2 of the 3 carriageway to park, offload and unload, when in fact that road would function, what we call the serviceability performance. It would have been functioning properly. as we speak, just let your cameras go to the junction and see what is happening. One other thing that, even without the expansion of the roads, have to be taken into consideration is how our signalized intersections always break down. When they break down, we have any other person just moving into the traffic, and then in the absence of the MTTV, we have colleagues around who just want to maybe offer some help. Unfortunately, because they are not so in tune with traffic management, they stand there and then divert traffic or move direct traffic per their understanding. And these are the things that have to be remedied, and we might have some sanity with the few rules that we have. I think that my colleague was talking about the fact that the other alternatives that are supposed to be enhanced is the railway. Just recently, we heard about the accident that occurred on the Pakadam stretch.
Yeah.
But I think maybe government would have to give us a lot of education. What I have seen, because I have a relative who is directly with the team, is that we're going to take a chunk of the traffic right from the Tema ports, apart from the goods that are going to go through the Tema to the Pakadam to the Kusumbu, where they have the barges, to now ferry those goods on the river to get to Buipe. And then now cargoes will pick up Buipe and then continue their journey to the north and then to the Burkina Faso. It means that when it is functioning, you may take, if not less, more than 25% of the volume of these cargo trucks who are coming from Tema Motorway to Tetekwashi to Achimota to Ofanko towards Nsawam, beyond to Apeja, into Kumasi and then beyond. It means that you are largely taking some huge or these heavy-duty trucks right from the Tema Motorway. That will be significant in reduction of the congestions on that road. And so we just have to push or sustain our advocacy in letting government to more or less be focusing on that aspect. And then one of the things that happens is that, the nature of the road also brings about the traffic. Now, when these trucks are actually off the Tema Motorway, Tetekwashi, Achimota or Fanko, Amasaman and Sawam, all the way towards Ashanti region, it means your designs of the pavement, which will actually factor in these heavy-duty trucks. Now, when they are not experiencing these trucks or these loads on them again, ordinarily it means that you are going to enhance the performance of this road. That will stay within the design life and beyond. And so these are some of the few things that have to come in. Then discipline aspect. You remember, I think about 5 years ago, when one of your sister stations started, and I think you both, all of you joined in the war against indiscipline, where people were being fined every now and then. Government was even making so much money from that aspect as well. So I was of the view that we need to put or install these CCTV cameras. We have to dominate our roads where you have prompts. In fact, I'm told that recently people are getting prompts on their phones from Manfi towards Accra for overspeeding and careless driving. We need to enhance this so that the human face is taken out. And the one I know that I'm doing, I'm supposed to stay in the traffic, which actually is moving with some few delay, but naturally everybody will move. And I try to go and use the medium. I use this outer shoulder. I use the inner shoulder, which is not meant for vehicles. I'll be prompted with on my phone that I'll be paying some X amount of money per the videos that I'll be shown. Then people will just stay in the line, because you see, with all that, when everybody is disciplined, with the scheme of analysis that we have been doing as road consultants and engineers, when the traffic, let's pick motorway end to end, and there's a small slow down on the road because of possibly one lane, two lane, which has been moved to a one lane because of a distressed vehicle, and it will just take about 5 minutes for, let's say, 300-meter queue to move across. And the vehicle decide that they will not stay within the 5 minutes. They will move on the outer inner shoulder. And when they all come to a junction and create a bottleneck, then you start to get that people who would have stayed in 5 minutes are now staying about 40 minutes, because everybody is trying to use the same one lane which has been left. And this boils back to, apart from the fact that the roads may not be in a very good shape, this is indiscipline. And I am seeing a lot of this, because every now and then we are on the roads.
Okay.
And these are some of the things that we have to work on.
Okay, now before I get to Cecil Gabra, let me get your view on the bus rapid transit. So this is something we tried. It didn't work. He's talked about going back to it again. First of all, do we have the road infrastructure? Beyond the road infrastructure, what else do we need? There's a talk of, some 100 electric buses into the country to deal with the public transport system. Good deal or much ado about nothing?
The electric buses, the ones that we have, would have to, there are human beings who are going to coordinate them. In fact, when this recent BRT buses came in fact, in a small digression, there was this card that you have to pay and then swipe and move, right? The Kaswa one. In fact, what happened to those gadgets? The first few weeks, all the gadgets which were supposed to actually take off human face were all damaged. They said it was faulty and people have to start to pay. That's one of the first issue about Ghanaians. Number two, if you look at, let's still use Tetekwashi, Medina Tetekwashi to a 37 road. We have about 2-3 lane, dovetailing to 2-3. The roads are not the same throughout. So you have a place where you have a 3 lane coming to a 2 lane, coming to a 3 lane, and I think even 4 at a session. In when we're doing transportation engineering in school, in fact, everybody who has done some civil engineering with some transport will know that they said at a point in time, let's say if you are from Medina bound to Accra, and you are from Accra bound to Medina, and in the mornings we know that because a lot of people are moving from Medina towards the capital, to the ministry, there's always a congestion on that stretch. And then the Medina bound is mostly free. So what we were taught is that practically one of the other bound lane, that is the Medina lane, will be dedicated for some of these, let's say, the bus. So the bus can actually be moving in opposite direction. So it's just about how we'll sit down and then model. It can be done, and it must be done. When we are getting to a place where naturally we're going to have great blocks every now and then, I'm sure we'll elevate our thinking caps. For the engineers, we'll do our best, and then we expect that when we get to that stage, the politicians will just go by the suggestions and practical solutions that when they actually engage or they assemble some traffic expert to actually role model what we have to be applicable. It can be that because now if you want to do dedicated lanes outside that of, let's say, Adenta to Accra, and you want to go off the road and do a new design, you can imagine the extent of compensation that will be done just for to get one carriageway to be dedicated, other than the one we have, to serve those great or big overpopulated communities along that stretch. So, listen, we can do it. When the engineers can always come out with a solution, maybe with the constraints we have, maybe some few alterations will be done along the line. But we expect that when it's done and these blueprints are actually available or laid bare to the policymakers must also ensure that they exercise to the latter what the engineers are. Because what my colleague has said over and over, he said this over and over for the past years. I've actually been listening to him, just like myself. Okay. It can be done.
Talking about it, the fact that it can be done and that the policymakers would just have to defer to the engineers. We have the Deputy Minister for Transport, Hassan Tampuli, who is also a Member of Parliament for Gushegu, who has joined us on the phone also. Let's talk to him and find out, what their plans are. Honorable Tampuli, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning. And good morning to your cherished listeners.
Great. So, Engineer Abdullahi Mahama and Cecil Gara have all been talking about...
I think that the volume is a bit low. I don't know what...
Is it better now? Can you hear me?
It's so low.
Okay. Is it better? Okay. We'll get back to you. Hassan Tampuli, who is Deputy Minister for Transport. But let me just wrap up with you, Cecil Gabra. So you've heard from Engineer Abdullah Mahama. He's talked about how we should defer to the engineers. But there are people who have talked about, all these other commercial vehicles. We have lots of, Evans in the system, the trotro drivers. They're just not going to go away. So what happens to them? We just don't say, well, we're bringing in buses and that's the end. Something has to be done to them. How do we deal with them?
Well, already the vehicles they are using. Okay, let me pick on one like the Sprinter bus. Okay, for instance, I always talk to my family and friends that never sit in that vehicle because that vehicle was not made for human beings to sit in them. I always say that because if you look at the real buses that were made for passengers, it is longer and the seats are aluminium. That makes it quite lighter by itself. And then when you have people seated in it, it picks up with the right weight that has been calibrated for the vehicle. But here we are, those buses come to Ghana. I'm talking about the cargo type of vans and so on, what you call the Sprinter buses, the LT. And so they come to Ghana. It's been taken to a fitting shop, and then they weld angle iron seat in them, which is very heavy. So, in the first place, when it's on the road, the center of gravity will no longer hold. Is that what we are looking at? And we are still encouraging those vans to be registered as passenger vehicles. So, again, we had it wrong. They are already in the system. I will keep quiet. I wouldn't say anything, but make sure the BRT system works just like my very good engineer mentioned. If it works, then we'll have an automatic fade away from this buses. I am not saying we should destroy their business, but definitely they'll find their way. Because I am at a breed now. Unfortunately, I'm going to leave you very soon because I'm training about 600 tanker drivers, teaching them how to climb the hill and then descend with their gears. Right, so I may leave you, but what I'm going to say now is just simple that we should make sure that we follow a very good tradition to change our city. We can copy what is in Brazil. Brazil started in 1974. Today, you go to the cities of Brazil, and then you will not enjoy that traffic. Right? The strength of the system relies on planning, and then the idea that the public transport should ban. This is what we need in the country. I'm sorry, Winston, I'll have to go.
Yes, in fact, we're very grateful for making time to join us. Thank you very, very much, Cecil Gaba, and thank you also, Engineer Abdullah Mahama, for joining us. We're very grateful to you both for spending time with us here on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM.